Have you ever wondered why brilliant business strategies completely fall apart on the front lines, leaving companies wide open to catastrophic fraud or compliance failures? It usually traces back to a single broken link. Welcome back to this series on the 17 principles of the COSO Internal Control Integrated Framework, where we break down each principle in plain language and connect it to real business, risk, audit, and governance situations. In this clip, we're going to look at Principle 12, which sits under the control activities component. Principle 12 states the organization deploys control activities through policies that establish what is expected and procedures that put policies into action. In short, it demands that leadership's directives are not just high-level statements or words written on a page, but are systematically operationalized into day-to-day employee workflows. In plain language, this means Principle 12 acts as the bridge between intent and action. Think of a policy as the ground rule. It states what the organization expects and who's responsible. A procedure is the recipe, the step-by-step, repeatable action plan that employees follow to make sure they do not break that rule. Without a policy, a procedure has no official authority. Without a procedure, a policy is just a set of words on the network somewhere that remains dissociated from the work being done. Principle 12 is under the control activities component. Looking at its alignment with the other principles in this group, it serves as the operational vehicle for Principle 10, focusing on selecting risk mitigating controls, and Principle 11, developing general technology controls. While Principle 10 dictates what controls are needed, and Principle 11 outlines the technology safeguards, Principle 12 dictates how those controls are formalized, codified, and consistently executed across user workflows. The three COSO objectives, operations, reporting, and compliance, are the three categories that organizational objectives typically fit into. Let's look at how this principle applies across such objectives. For operational objectives, which focus on effectiveness and efficiency, Principle 12 lowers the cognitive load on employees by embedding clear procedures into daily tasks. Instead of overanalyzing a complex situation, a team member follows a standardized protocol. This reduces human error, speeds up training, and ensures operational consistency regardless of staff turnover. For reporting objectives which look at reliability, timeliness, and transparency, Principle 12 ensures that financial and non-financial reporting processes are not left to chance. For instance, a policy may state that financial statements must be accurate. Principle 12 operationalizes this by mandating a rigid, monthly account reconciliation checklist performed by a competent person within a specific timeline, making data aggregation verifiable and auditable. For compliance objectives, which require adherence to applicable laws and regulations, Principle 12 translates complex statutory language into actionable rules for staff. To comply with anti-money laundering laws, for example, you might have a policy detailing verification thresholds paired directly with a step-by-step checklist that an analyst must run for every new account. Weaknesses in this area create a gap between strategic intent and frontline execution. Under agency theory, when expectations are not explicitly formalized, employees may naturally optimize for their own convenience rather than the organization's goals, opening the door to fraud, operational drift, and rogue decision-making. Organizations also suffer from institutional amnesia. If procedures live only in the heads of senior employees, the organization loses its operational capability the moment they quit. A lack of standardized procedures breeds inconsistent shadow procedures, while a lack of a formalized policy makes it impossible for management to hold employees accountable when a critical safety or financial check is bypassed. Controls related to this principle might be preventative, detective, corrective, or focused on risk transfer. Let's look at how a progressive organization structures these governance mechanisms. A formalized corporate governance framework that assigns a specific executive owner to every key policy and procedure to guarantee absolute accountability. System-enforced version controls and hard-coded review schedules within a centralized GRC repository to prevent any unapproved modifications. A formally established corporate authority matrix and delegation of authority framework that validates and gives formal policies full institutional authority across all business units. A monthly automated GRC platform exception report that proactively identifies and flags all governance documents currently past their mandated annual review date. An open operational feedback channel and ticketing system allowing frontline employees to flag procedural inaccuracies or friction points in real time. a quarterly system audit and reconciliation report that flags employees who failed to complete their annual read and understand policy attestations within the required timeline, an automated workflow engine that triggers sequential email reminders and progressive management escalation paths if an employee or policy owner fails to review a critical document within a 12-month window, for example. A comprehensive cybersecurity or professional liability insurance policy explicitly structured to cover losses from unintentional employee negligence when a corporate policy or procedure is breached. In an organization that does this well, auditors might find policies and procedures residing in a modern GRC or knowledge management system, featuring active version control and strict ownership metadata. Controls will be systematically embedded straight into software workflows rather than relying on human memory. There'll be digital audit trails showing every policy undergoes an annual review cycle to align with changing risks, alongside read and understand logs linked to HR learning platforms to prove traceable competency. For management, this principle means you can't manage by decree alone. It requires an active commitment to operationalizing accountability. Management must explicitly name a single owner for every single policy and procedure, provide the workforce with the tools and platforms necessary to execute these procedures in a timely manner, and continuously look at the system macroscopically when mistakes happen to determine if a procedure was poorly designed or if they failed to lower the employee's cognitive load. For auditors, validating this principle requires a critical substance over form mindset. You must look beyond the paper. A signed policy is simply a statement of intent. Internal audit needs to look for verifiable historical transaction samples, proving the underlying procedures are actively being performed by competent staff. Auditors must evaluate alignment to ensure the procedure actually satisfies the intent of the policy, and review metadata to confirm that procedures are occurring within the timeframes demanded by the business context, as delayed execution often renders a control useless. For the board, specifically through the Audit and Risk Committee, this principle helps ensure their governance oversight is actually taking root in the organization's culture. It gives the board comfort that their high-level strategic risk tolerances are being systematically executed across thousands of daily transactions, measuring the tone at the bottom. To ensure it's applied appropriately, the board should explicitly ask management whether highest risk policies are backed by automated procedures, and ensure management is adequately budgeting for GRC systems, knowledge management systems, corporate training, and automation tools. The key takeaway is that great governance means nothing without reliable execution. Policies define your culture and boundaries, but procedures protect your assets and turn strategy into reality. Thanks for joining me in this exploration of COSO ICIF Principle 12. Leave a comment below and click the like button if you found this useful, and subscribe to this channel for more videos on this topic. The next video is going to go into Principle 13, diving into how organizations generate and use relevant, quality information to support internal controls.